Okay, so welcome to our last vCenter configuration lab. In this lab, we're focusing on installing things like iSCSI and our Nfs Share. So let's go ahead and get into our vCenter. What's really interesting here is this is something where most organizations mess up. vSphere.local. But a lot of companies do not do iSCSI or do not do the NFS type shares correctly. I've had a lot of organizations that I've worked with just not do the iSCSI. They'll have a SAN, but nothing to go along with it. So while this web interface goes to log in, it's kind of slow, so be patient. I'm going to go ahead and maximize my screen. So we're going to be navigating to our hosts and our ESXi1. And you'll notice for our VNet 3, we have 2 physical NICs and we have 1 VM kernel port. So with iSCSI, it can be sending out of either of them. So we're going to make a little bit of adjustment to this. So how we do this, we're going to click on the Add Host button, which is really funny because in VMware 5.5, this is a lot simpler. You could have just gone to the properties, but here we can't. So VMware kernel network adapter. We're going to make sure it's going to switch 3. We're going to be calling this iSCSI 2. Again, it's case sensitive, so make sure we are matching. Here we're going to be assigning it a 192.168.3.23 address with a /24 subnet mask. Verify it, finish. And we should see that we now have 2 iSCSI connectors, even though we only have 1 port mapped to iSCSI 1. We're going to handle that on our next part. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to edit it. So go to the pencil. So we're going to go down to neat teaming and failover. We're going to move vnic 5. We're going to move it down to unused adapters. I'm going to select iSCSI 2. And I'm going to modify that. Again, teaming failover. I always do this. I'm going to go back. And I'm going to reselect iSCSI 1. I'm going to edit specifically this item. This will edit the entire switch. I want to edit just iSCSI 1. NIC teaming, failover, that's what we want. iSCSI 2, edit, NIC teaming failover, override, and this time we actually want to flip them. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And it should refresh. And here we go. So if you do not see the adapter here, little arrow, and so we should actually see a 1-to-1 mapping between the two. All right, next we're going to be adding an iSCSI adapter. We're going to go to Storage, and you should be able to click on Anywhere. Sorry, apparently with the vSphere 5.5 you could just right-click anywhere, but here we're going to click on the Add button and Add Software iSCSI Adapter. If you get this message, you go ahead and click OK. Give it a second, it should pop up, and we should now see our iSCSI adapter. We're going to first go ahead and do the network bonding, or the network port binding. So once we go down here, you should see adapter details, properties. We're going to add 2 network port binding for our iSCSI. We're going to be adding both iSCSI 1 and iSCSI 2. You may get a rescan, but we're not going to rescan quite yet because we want to do a few things first. So now that we've done that, let's go ahead and change or go down to target, and we're going to do a dynamic discovery. We're going to be adding our IP address to our iSCSI storage unit, which should be 192.168.3.20. So if you had a SAN, this would be the SAN's IP address for, again, this is the iSCSI portion. Click on add, give it a minute, and then we're going to go ahead and then choose static discovery. And you should be able to see both your LUNs. So sometimes the web client just kind of decides to freak out. So if this does it for you, just be patient, it does go away. Okay, there it goes. So I was underneath targets. I was seeing my target. I actually want to refresh the host information. I'm still not showing any target device or paths. That's okay. I'm going to go up here. I'm going to click on rescan. Rescan can take a minute, but you should be able to see targets and devices and paths. So this is what gets really interesting. So we did the scanning under scanning adapter. I navigated to storage device, and you'll notice both my iSCSI LUNs are already there, and they're configured, and they're ready to go. So that's sometimes one of the problems, because vSphere is 5.5, you could actually manipulate this. You could manipulate their size and their when they're attached and whatnot, but here, they're already set up. They're ready. You can actually detach them and reattach them if you'd like. But I'm going to go through the process anyway. I'm going to go ahead and rescan. So I'm going to scan for new stores and new volumes. Okay, that's what you'd be doing if you didn't see anything. So they're not quite data stores yet, though. We have to do a little bit more work there. So some of the options down here aren't quite ready. So you can actually go up here to Actions. We're going to go down to Storage, New Data Store. Here we're going to choose the appropriate options. We're going to be doing a VMFS first. We'll do NFS later, but first one is going to be our data store for a disk and a LUN. Choose the appropriate disk that we want, and then name the first one iSCSI 1. Once you've done that, go and click Next. We should be able to choose the appropriate size, verify everything, and finish. Once it shows complete down here, we're going to do the same thing. Back to storage, back to new data store. We're going to do the same thing for iSCSI 2, except this time we are going to give it storage of 16 gigs. Data store size, 16 gigs. Next, verify it's 16 gigs. Finish, and it should reconnect. And let's go ahead and refresh it. This is not showing us data stores, so do keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and verify. We're going to do that by going related objects and navigating to data store, and here we can see our data stores. Data store 1, which is the primary hard drive of our ESXi, iSCSI1, iSCSI2, and their appropriate free spaces. Let's go ahead and create an Nfs Share. So, same way I've created my VMFS shares, I'm going to go back and do the same thing, but for NFS. Storage, new data store. I'm choosing NFS. I'm leaving it NFS version 3. The data store name, again, this is all case sensitive, NFS. And give it the server we're dealing with. Make sure you do not mark it read-only. Leave that alone. Next. Verify the settings. Finish. And in a second or two, we will have a NFS. The status will show unknown. Give it some time, it will go to normal. Double click on it, and it should take you, connectivity with hosts, to that area, which I'm going to go ahead and go back, related objects. That took us to the NFS data store. I want to go back to my hosts. Once you navigate to it, it will go to normal. That's what we want. Now we're going to do the same steps for ESXi2. So I'm going to hop over to ESXi2. Notice only one data store, that's fine. We're going to go to Manage. We're going to Networking. We are looking at our vSwitch 3. Again, you'll notice we have both vNic 4 and 5 attached to iSCSI1. We're going to go ahead and add a new network. VM kernel network adapter. We're attaching it to vSwitch 3. We're calling this one iSCSI2. We are going to be giving this IP address 19. There we go. Did not want to let me select it. 192.168.3.24. We're doing a /24. And next, verify, finish. We're actually going to be modifying iSCSI1 with the teaming and failover. We actually want to override the failover order. We want to throw vNet 5 in by itself. I'm going to click OK. We're going to go down to iSCSI. And we're going to go ahead and do the same thing, failing team override. This time we're throwing vNet 4 down. Basically, this allows us to have a one-to-one path mapping. What I mean by that is each one of these ports is tied to a specific physical port. That way there's multiple paths. All right, once that's done, let's go and move to storage. We're looking at storage adapters. Notice there's no iSCSI adapter. Let's go and add our iSCSI adapter. I'm going to start with a rescan. So sometimes it auto-detects our paths, sometimes they don't. Let's go and navigate to our iSCSI adapter, because it's not finding any of them, which that's fine. The network port bindings. Again, we're adding in our iSCSI1 and iSCSI2. We're going to paths, still no paths. We're going to go to target. We're going to be adding our storage unit, which should be 3.20. If we go to static discovery, we should find our two iSCSI ones there. I'm going to do a quick rescan right now, just to see if we get any paths coming up. And our paths are there. We do not have to worry about the data stores, because if we browse data stores, you'll notice our data stores, because they were already created on ESXi1, because the data stores are stored on the SAN itself, so we don't have to recreate the data stores. So once we've done that, when we are ready to do the NFS mount, we cannot just add it to ESXi2. In vSphere 5.5, you could. In vSphere 6, you cannot. So to get NFS shared on ESXi2, let's navigate back to let's navigate back to ESXi1. Let's right-click NFS and mount data store to an additional host. Select which host you want to add it to. Click OK. That will mount it to ESXi2. So this is a change from 5.5 to vSphere 6. And once you verify NFS on both of them, that's the end of our base configuration for vCenter. We're going to be doing licensing in a later lab, but this sets up our vSphere 6 infrastructure.